Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak directly to the heart of the woman of God who finds herself fighting alone. A woman who prays, who serves, who gives her all, but still feels like she is carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. God never intended for you to walk this journey alone, but sometimes He allows seasons where it feels like you are standing by yourself. Why? Because in those moments He is revealing something deeper about who you are, what you carry, and where He is taking you. Here are 5 signs of a woman of God who is fighting alone, so that you may recognize where you are and how to overcome. A woman of God often finds herself carrying the weight of leadership without the support she truly needs. This burden is not just about responsibility, it is about the emotional, spiritual, and sometimes physical demands that come with being a leader, whether in her home, church, workplace, or community. She has been called by God to lead, yet there are moments when she feels completely alone in her journey. The weight of leadership is something that many great figures in the Bible have experienced. Moses himself, a man chosen by God to lead Israel, cried out in desperation, saying, "I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me." Numbers 11:14. In the same way, a woman of God often finds herself pouring into others, guiding, instructing, and carrying the vision God has given her, yet there is no one to lift her arms when she grows weary. The reality is, leadership can be a lonely place. People look to her for direction, wisdom, and strength, but few truly understand the sacrifices she makes behind the scenes. She wakes up early to intercede for those around her, stays up late ensuring everything is in order, and often puts her own needs last because the call of God on her life demands selflessness. She does not complain because she knows her role is God-given, but deep inside she longs for someone to share the weight of her calling. Many women of God find themselves in this position, particularly in family settings. She may be a mother, praying fervently for her children, guiding them in the ways of God, yet feeling unsupported by her spouse or family members. She may be a wife who fights for her marriage in prayer while her partner remains spiritually disconnected. She may be a leader in ministry, working tirelessly to serve others, yet feeling as if no one sees the sacrifices she makes. The burden of leadership is not just about action. It is also about the emotional strain that comes with always being strong for others. She encourages, uplifts, and stands firm in faith, but when she faces her own challenges, there are few people to whom she can turn. People assume she has it all together, that she does not need encouragement, that she is immune to discouragement. But even the strongest leaders have moments when they feel weak. What makes this journey even harder is that people often misunderstand her struggle. Instead of recognizing the weight she carries, they may criticize, question, or take her for granted. They see the results of her leadership but do not recognize the sleepless nights, the silent battles, and the countless sacrifices behind her success. Like Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, she works with one hand while defending herself with the other. She builds and battles at the same time, knowing that giving up is not an option. Yet, despite the loneliness of leadership, God always sees her. He knows every tear she has cried, every burden she has carried, and every moment she has felt forgotten. Just as He sent Aaron and Hur to hold up Moses' arms in battle, He will send help in His perfect time. But until then, He strengthens her. He sustains her. He reminds her that she is never truly alone, even when it feels that way. She must also recognize that God does not intend for her to carry everything alone forever. Leadership is not about doing everything by herself, but about stewarding the vision God has given her and trusting Him to provide the right people to help her. Sometimes help does not come from the places she expects, but God always provides. She must be willing to let go of unnecessary burdens, delegate where possible, and trust that the same God who called her to lead will also equip her to endure. A woman of God knows the power of prayer. She rises before the sun, kneels in secret, and pours out her heart to the one who sees all. She prays for her family, her children, her marriage, her ministry, and even for those who may never know the depth of her intercession. In her quiet place, she finds refuge, strength, and direction. Yet, despite the fervency of her prayers, she often faces her battles in silence. The silent battles she fights are not because she lacks faith, nor because she is unwilling to share her struggles. It is because, many times, she feels there is no one who will truly understand. She carries burdens too heavy to explain, battles too complex to put into words, and wounds too deep to expose to just anyone. She is the one others turn to for counsel, encouragement, and support, but when she faces her own storms, she finds herself standing alone. Like Hannah in the Bible, she weeps before God in the quiet moments, knowing that only He can truly comprehend the depths of her pain. She prays for breakthroughs that seem delayed, for answers that have not yet come, and for strength to endure seasons of waiting. Others may look at her and assume all is well because she does not easily show her pain. They see her faith, her confidence in God, and the way she encourages others, but they do not see the tears she sheds behind closed doors. The weight of silent battles is intensified by the expectations placed upon her. As a woman of God, she is expected to be strong, to always believe, to never waver. She does not want to burden others with her struggles, so she keeps them hidden. She does not want to appear weak, so she fights alone. But just because she is silent does not mean she is not hurting. The battles within her mind, the attacks on her faith, the discouragement that tries to settle in, these are the wars she fights without a visible battlefield. She smiles on the outside, but wrestles on the inside. She serves in ministry while battling personal storms. She speaks life into others while asking God for a word of hope for herself. She lifts her hands in worship while secretly wondering when her own deliverance will come. This is not hypocrisy. It is the reality of many women of God who continue to stand in faith, even when life feels like it is pressing them from every side. There are moments when she longs for someone to notice, to ask her how she is really doing, not just in passing, but with a heart ready to listen. Yet, she has learned that not everyone is equipped to handle her truth. Some will misunderstand her struggle, others may judge her, and some may even use her vulnerability against her. So, she chooses silence. She takes her pain to God alone, believing that He is the only one who will never fail her. In the midst of her silent battles, she clings to God's promises. She reminds herself that He sees what others overlook. He knows the depths of her soul, the prayers she cannot even put into words, and the silent cries of her heart. He is the God who saw Hagar in the wilderness, the God who answered Hannah's whispered prayers, the God who strengthens those who have no strength left. Even when she feels unseen, she is never truly alone. Though she fights in silence, heaven is aware of her struggle. Her prayers are not in vain, her faith is not unnoticed, and her tears are not forgotten. What she battles in secret, God will reward in the open. Until then, she presses on, trusting that the same God who has carried her this far will continue to sustain her. A woman of God is a giver by nature. She gives her time, her love, her wisdom, her prayers, and her strength to those around her. She pours into her family, into her church, into her workplace, and into the lives of those who need her. She is the one people turn to for advice, for comfort, for encouragement, and for support. She is always available, always willing, always ready to help, yet in the process of giving so much of herself, she often finds that she has little left for herself. She wakes up early to pray for her family before they start their day. She takes care of their needs, making sure everyone is provided for. She listens to others, speaks words of encouragement, and uplifts those who are struggling. She serves in her community and her church, ensuring that the work of God continues without interruption. She is constantly giving, yet few stop to ask if she has anything left to give. Many times she feels drained but keeps pouring out. She continues to give because she believes it is her responsibility. She does not complain, nor does she show her exhaustion. She has convinced herself that this is what it means to be strong, but deep inside she knows that she is running on empty. Her body feels it, her mind feels it, and even her spirit feels it. She longs for a moment of rest, a moment where she can receive the same love and care that she so freely gives to others. Even Jesus in his earthly ministry took time away to be replenished. The Bible tells us that after ministering to the crowds, he withdrew to a quiet place to pray and be refreshed. If the Son of God needed time to refill his spirit, how much more does a woman of God who is constantly giving? But instead of resting, she pushes herself even harder. She convinces herself that she cannot stop because too many people depend on her. She tells herself that if she does not do it, no one else will. She keeps going even when she feels weak. She keeps praying for others even when she needs prayer herself. She keeps encouraging others even when she feels discouraged. She keeps smiling even when she feels like breaking down. She believes that serving others is her calling, and she does not want to disappoint anyone, not her family, not her church, and not God. Yet there is a danger in constantly pouring out without being refilled. When a vessel is empty, it cannot give anything else. When a lamp runs out of oil, it can no longer shine. A woman of God who neglects to replenish herself spiritually, emotionally, and physically will eventually reach a breaking point. She may feel disconnected from God, overwhelmed by the demands of life, and emotionally drained. She may start to lose the joy she once had in serving, not because she does not love what she does, but because she has nothing left to give. God does not want His daughters to live in a constant state of exhaustion. He never intended for them to carry burdens alone. He calls them to come to Him, to lay down their heavy loads, and to find rest in His presence. He is the source of their strength, their peace, and their renewal. When they take time to be still before Him, He restores them. He reminds them that they are not just servants, but also His beloved daughters. A woman of God must learn to receive as much as she gives. She must allow herself moments to be refreshed, to sit at the feet of Jesus like Mary did, rather than always being busy like Martha. She must trust that God will take care of the things she cannot control, and that it is okay to rest. In His presence, she will find the strength to continue pouring out, not from a place of emptiness, but from a place of divine overflow. A woman of God knows what it means to stand when everything around her is shaking. She understands the pain of watching people walk away, friends who once stood by her side, family members who once believed in her, and even those she poured her heart into. Yet, despite the disappointment and loneliness, she does not waver. She keeps believing, keeps trusting, and keeps standing because her faith is not built on people but on God. It is never easy to stand alone. When people leave, doubt tries to creep in. She may wonder if she heard God correctly, if she is on the right path, or if she is strong enough to continue. But something inside her refuses to give up. She remembers the promises God made to her, the vision He placed in her heart, and the way He has never failed her. She chooses to stand, even when standing is the hardest thing to do. Joseph understood this kind of faith. Betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit and sold into slavery, he had every reason to give up. The very people who should have supported him were the ones who abandoned him. Yet, even in the loneliness of prison, he never lost faith. He knew that God's purpose was greater than his pain. A woman of God carries this same strength. She knows that even if people leave, God remains. She has seen people walk away from her dreams, her vision, and her calling. She has experienced the pain of being misunderstood and the heartache of broken relationships. Some walked away because they could not see what God was doing in her life. Others left because they were never meant to go where God was taking her. Still, she stands. She does not beg for their approval, nor does she try to convince them to stay. She releases them and keeps walking in obedience. There are moments when she cries in secret, moments when she wonders if she has the strength to continue. But even in those moments, she does not lose faith. She knows that God sometimes removes people to protect her from what she cannot see. She understands that rejection is often God's redirection. It is not just rejection, she is resistance, that redirection. She trusts that every loss will be turned into gain in His perfect time. Faith is not just believing when everything is going well. Faith is standing when everything seems to be falling apart. A woman of God does not allow disappointment to shake her foundation. She continues to serve, continues to pray, and continues to love, even when others have left. She does not let bitterness take root in her heart because she knows that God is in control. She forgives those who walked away not because they deserve it, but because she refuses to let their departure steal her peace. Like Ruth, she chooses to stay faithful even when the easy option is to walk away. When Naomi told Ruth to go back to her old life, Ruth refused. She clung to Naomi and declared, "Your God will be my God." This is the kind of faith that a woman of God carries. Faith that clings to God, even when everything else is uncertain. She does not let loneliness define her. Instead, she sees it as a season of growth. She uses the time to draw closer to God, to strengthen her relationship with Him, and to prepare for what He has next. She understands that those who walked away were never her source. God is. and because He is her foundation, she will not be shaken. People may leave, but God will never leave her. Opportunities may fade, but God's promises remain. She stands in faith, knowing that what God has for her will come in His perfect time. She is not alone, she is not forgotten, and she is never without hope. No matter who walks away, she keeps her eyes on the one who never will. A woman of God is a warrior at heart. She fights battles that others never see, wars that are waged in the secret places of prayer, in the quiet strength of endurance, and in the silent tears she wipes away before stepping into her daily responsibilities. She does not back down when faced with challenges, nor does she allow fear to dictate her steps. She has learned to stand firm in faith, to push forward even when the odds are against her, and to trust God when nothing makes sense. She carries the heart of a warrior, but beneath her strength there are wounds that tell the story of every battle she has fought. Her wounds are not always visible, yet they exist. They come from seasons of betrayal, where people she trusted turned their backs on her. They come from disappointments when doors she prayed for remained closed despite her faith. They come from sacrifices she has made, things she let go of to follow God's will, relationships she had to surrender, dreams she had to place on the altar. Each wound represents a moment where she fought with all she had, believing for victory, only to walk away with scars instead. She does not carry these wounds as signs of defeat, but as proof that she has survived. She knows what it is like to be broken, but still keep moving. She understands the cost of obedience, the pain of trusting God through uncertainty, and the heartbreak that sometimes accompanies the journey of faith. Yet, despite everything she has been through, she continues to fight. She refuses to give up, not because she has never been hurt, but because she has learned that God can use even the deepest wounds for His glory. Like David standing before Goliath, she does not rely on her own strength. She knows that her battles are not just physical, but spiritual, and so she fights with prayer, with worship, with unwavering faith. She has been through enough to know that victory does not always come the way she expects. Sometimes God delivers instantly, and other times He allows her to walk through the fire so that she may emerge refined. She has faced battles that made her question if she had anything left to give, moments where she felt completely drained, yet she pressed on. She has learned that true warriors are not those who have never been wounded, but those who continue to fight despite their wounds. She does not pretend that the pain does not exist, but she does not allow it to define her. She brings her brokenness before God, trusting that He is the only one who can heal her completely. Her wounds have made her more compassionate, more understanding, and more resilient. She knows what it feels like to walk through the valley, and so she does not judge those who are struggling. Instead, she lifts them up, offering the same encouragement she once needed. She is proof that wounds do not mean weakness. They mean she has fought, endured, and survived. There are moments when she looks at her scars and remembers the pain, but then she also remembers God's faithfulness. Every time she thought she would not make it, He sustained her. Every time she was ready to give up, He gave her the strength to continue. She is not the same person she was before the battle. She is stronger, wiser, and more aware of who God is. Though she still carries wounds, she knows that healing is a process. Some wounds will fade with time, while others remain as a testimony of what she has overcome. But no matter how deep the scars, she refuses to stop fighting. She wears her wounds not as marks of defeat, but as reminders that she is a warrior, one who has been through the fire and come out refined, one who has fought battles and still stands, one who will continue to fight because she knows that God is always with her. A woman of God often finds herself in seasons of isolation, moments when it feels as if she has been set apart from everything and everyone. She may look around and wonder why relationships have shifted, why certain doors have closed, and why the familiar places that once brought her comfort now feel distant. Isolation can be painful, but what she may not immediately realize is that it is not punishment, it is preparation. God is not withholding from her, He is positioning her. He is not rejecting her, He is refining her. There are times when God removes distractions so that she can hear His voice more clearly. In the noise of daily life, it is easy to rely on people, routines, and comfort zones. But when everything is stripped away, when she is left with only God, that is when she truly begins to understand that He is enough. Isolation forces her into deeper dependence on Him. It is in the quiet moments of loneliness that He speaks. revealing his plans, strengthening her spirit, and preparing her heart for the next season. Many great leaders in the Bible went through isolation before stepping into their calling. Joseph was separated from his family and placed in a prison before he was elevated to a position of power. Moses was in the wilderness for years before he was called to lead the Israelites. Even Jesus withdrew to the desert before beginning his ministry. Their isolation was not a sign of abandonment. It was part of their preparation. In the same way, a woman of God must recognize that her season of solitude is not wasted time. It is God shaping her for something greater. This season can be difficult because she may not understand what God is doing. She may pray for companionship, for opportunities, for a breakthrough, yet instead she finds herself alone. She may wonder why certain friendships have faded, why people who once walked closely with her are no longer there. But not everyone is meant to go where God is taking her. Some relationships would only serve as distractions, and some people are not equipped to handle the weight of the calling on her life. Isolation also exposes what is within. When everything else is removed, she comes face to face with her own thoughts, emotions, and faith. It is in this place that God deals with her heart, healing wounds she may have ignored, refining her character, and deepening her trust in Him. She may feel unseen, but in reality, God is doing His greatest work in the hidden places. He is molding her into the woman He created her to be. There is a transformation happening in isolation. God is strengthening her, teaching her, and revealing His purpose for her life. When she emerges from this season, she will not be the same. She will carry a new level of wisdom, a greater anointing, and a deeper relationship with God. What once felt like a lonely place will prove to have been the foundation for her next season of purpose. The challenge of isolation is to trust the process, to believe that even when she cannot see it, God is working. She must resist the temptation to rush through this season, to force connections that God is removing, or to try to escape the solitude before its work is complete. If she embraces it, she will find that the very isolation she once resented was actually God's greatest preparation for what is coming next. Though she may feel alone, she is never truly alone. God is with her in the waiting, in the refining, and in the preparing. He is setting her apart, not to abandon her, but to equip her. When the time is right, He will reveal the purpose behind the isolation, and she will see that what felt like separation was actually the beginning of elevation. A woman of God is constantly pouring out. She gives her time, her love, her wisdom, and her strength to those around her. She carries the burdens of others, intercedes for her family, serves in ministry, and stands in the gap for those who are weak. She encourages, uplifts, and nurtures. She is always available, always giving, always pouring. But what happens when she has nothing left to give? There comes a moment when even the strongest woman of God feels empty. She feels the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her, the demands of life pulling her in every direction, and the exhaustion of always being needed. She may not say it out loud, but deep inside she knows she is running on empty. Her spirit is weary, her heart is tired, and her strength is fading. She keeps going because she believes she must, but she knows she cannot continue like this forever. This is why she must learn to be refilled by God. The world will always demand more from her. People will always need her. Life will always bring challenges. But she cannot keep giving if she never allows herself to receive. She must come to a place where she understands that her strength does not come from her own efforts, but from God alone. She is not meant to carry everything on her own. She is meant to be sustained by the one who called her. Even Jesus in His earthly ministry took time to be alone with the Father. He withdrew from the crowds, stepped away from the demands, and spent time in prayer. He knew that without being refilled, He could not continue to pour out. A woman of God must learn this same truth. If she does not take time to sit at the feet of Jesus, she will eventually break under the weight of everything she carries. Being refilled by God is not just about prayer. It is about surrender. It is about admitting that she cannot do it all and was never meant to. It is about recognizing that true strength comes not from pushing harder, but from resting in His presence. She must lay down her burdens, release her worries, and allow God to restore what has been depleted. She must make time to be still, to listen, to soak in His word, and to let His presence refresh her. She cannot wait until she is completely drained to seek Him. She must learn to come to Him daily, consistently, intentionally. Just as a lamp needs oil to keep burning, Her spirit needs the presence of God to stay strong. She must drink from the living water so that she never runs dry. There will always be another responsibility, another task, another person in need. But she must understand that she is not the source, God is. She does not have to do everything in her own strength. When she allows herself to be refilled, she will not just survive, she will thrive. She will walk in peace instead of exhaustion, in joy instead of weariness. Her ability to pour into others is only as strong as her willingness to be poured into by God. If she does not learn to be refilled, she will eventually burn out. But if she allows God to renew her, she will find that she is stronger than she ever imagined, not because of her own power, but because of the one who sustains her. A woman of God must never feel guilty for taking time to be restored. She must never believe the lie that resting in God is weakness. It is in those moments of being refilled that she is truly empowered. And when she is full, she will not only be able to keep going, she will be able to do so with renewed passion, strength, and grace. A woman of God may go through seasons where she feels completely alone. She may face moments when it seems like no one understands her struggles. No one truly sees the depth of what she carries, and no one stands with her in the battles she fights. There are days when she feels unnoticed, unappreciated, and forgotten. She may be surrounded by people, yet still feel isolated in her heart. But even in those moments, she must remember one unshakable truth. She is never truly alone. God is with her in every season, in every moment of pain, in every quiet tear she sheds when no one is watching. He has never left her side, even when she could not feel him. His presence is constant, even when she is walking through the valley. He sees her when she is weary, when she is questioning, when she is trying to stay strong despite feeling weak. He knows the weight of what she carries, and he stands with her when no one else does. She may look around and see people walking away. Friends may distance themselves, relationships may change, and the ones she once relied on may not always be there. But people will always be imperfect, and human relationships will always have limitations. God, however, is not like people. He does not abandon, he does not betray, and he does not grow weary of being present. When everyone else is gone, he remains. When she has no one to turn to, he is still there, listening, comforting, and strengthening her heart. In the Bible, many great women of faith walked through lonely seasons. Esther had to stand alone before the king, risking everything to fulfill her purpose. Hannah wept in isolation as she cried out to God for a child. Hagar was sent into the wilderness feeling abandoned, but God met her there and revealed himself as the God who sees. Their loneliness was not the end of their story. It was the place where they encountered God in a deeper way. A woman of God must understand that her loneliness is not a sign of abandonment, but an opportunity for divine intimacy. When people fail her, it is an invitation to draw closer to the one who never will. When she feels like no one understands, God is reminding her that he knows her better than she knows herself. When she feels like no one sees her efforts, he is showing her that he sees everything, and he rewards the faithfulness that others overlook. She is never truly alone because God walks with her in every step. He is with her in the quiet moments of prayer, in the battles she fights in secret, in the burdens she carries on her shoulders. He is there when she feels forgotten, whispering to her heart that she is chosen, loved, and deeply valued. He is present when she is tired, offering rest for her soul. He is near when she feels like giving up, reminding her that his strength is made perfect in her weakness. Even in the silence, God is working. Even in the stillness, he is moving. She may not always see him, but she can trust that he is there. She can hold on to his promises, knowing that he will never leave her nor forsake her. She can stand firm in the truth that no matter what life brings, no matter who stays or who goes, no matter how lonely the road may seem, she is never truly alone.